Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist and founder of Turning Point USA, is dead at just 31 years old after being shot in broad daylight at Utah Valley University. This shocking event has not only taken the life of one of the most polarizing and influential voices in American politics, but has also thrown the nation into mourning, anger, and deep reflection about where the country stands in its growing culture wars. On September 10, 2025, Kirk arrived at Utah Valley University as part of his highly publicized American Comeback Tour. This tour was designed to rally conservative students across the nation, with Kirk's signature approach of setting up a Prove Me Wrong booth, a table with assigned challenging students to debate him on controversial issues. These events were known to attract both supporters and detractors, drawing large crowds of curious students, journalists, and sometimes heated protesters. That day, the atmosphere on campus was charged but expectant. Students gathered in the hundreds, if not thousands, with estimates later confirming that close to 3,000 people were on site when the tragedy occurred. Videos from the crowd show Kirk speaking with students, smiling, gesturing, and doing what he had become famous for, sparking debate. Then, without warning, a single shot rang out. Witnesses described the moment with horror. A crack echoed across the courtyard, and in an instant, Charlie Kirk fell backwards, clutching his neck. Blood was visible, and the crowd erupted in screams. Some shouted, "Run, run, run," as panic swept through the event. Students fled in every direction, ducking behind benches and buildings, not knowing whether more shots were coming. Kirk's security detail, who had been stationed nearby, rushed to his aid and dragged him away from the crowd. The shot, authorities later confirmed, had been fired from an elevated position, specifically from the rooftop of the Losi Center, a large campus building about 200 yards away. Video footage captured a shadowy figure in dark clothing running across the roof in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. Despite lockdown orders and a rapid police response, the shooter managed to escape. Early confusion led to reports that a suspect had been detained, but those individuals were later released, leaving the true perpetrator still at large. Kirk was rushed to a local hospital, where doctors worked for hours to save him. Initial updates were mixed, with some outlets reporting he was undergoing emergency surgery, while others feared the worst. By evening, the devastating confirmation came. Charlie Kirk had succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead. The impact was immediate and seismic. Utah's Governor Spencer Cox described the killing as nothing short of an assassination, calling it one of the darkest days in the state's history. Across the country, politicians of all stripes weighed in. Former President Donald Trump called Kirk legendary and said no one had connected with America's youth more than he had. Other conservative leaders described the attack as an assault on free speech and a chilling escalation of political violence. Meanwhile, Democrats also condemned the shooting, though many warned against using the tragedy to further inflame an already divided nation. For his supporters, Kirk's death feels like the silencing of a warrior. For his critics, it is a grim reminder of how toxic the nation's political climate has become. And for the millions who followed his work, it is a moment of disbelief. To truly understand the magnitude of this loss, you have to know who Charlie Kirk was and how he rose to prominence. Born in 1994 in Arlington Heights, Illinois, Kirk first gained national attention as a teenager when he founded Turning Point USA in 2012. His goal was simple but ambitious: to mobilize young conservatives and challenge what he saw as a left-wing monopoly on college campuses. Starting with little more than determination and a few connections, Kirk built TFUSA into a national powerhouse, raising millions of dollars and recruiting chapters at hundreds of universities across the country. By his mid-20s, Kirk was already a household name within conservative circles. His fiery speeches at conferences, his constant presence on Fox News, and his viral campus debates made him one of the most recognizable faces of America's conservative youth movement. His critics accuse him of being a provocateur who thrived on controversy. His supporters saw him as fearless, unafraid to confront progressive ideology head-on. Kirk was also a prolific author and speaker. He wrote books arguing against socialism and warning of the dangers of leftist control in education. He spoke at countless rallies, often side by side with figures like Donald Trump Jr. and other GOP leaders. His influence was not just cultural but political. He worked behind the scenes to mobilize young voters and was considered a rising star in Republican politics. But Kirk was also a lightning rod. His opponents often accused him of spreading misinformation, stoking division, and targeting marginalized groups. His events sometimes drew heated protests, and his bold, sometimes abrasive style made him one of the most polarizing voices in the nation. And yet, none of that changes the fact that what happened in Utah was an act of violence that has shaken America. The sheer brazenness of the attack, the fact that someone aimed a rifle from a rooftop at a crowded college event and assassinated a nationally known figure in front of thousands, is terrifying. It has raised urgent questions. Was this politically motivated? Was it a lone wolf? Was it planned in advance? Authorities have yet to confirm a motive, but the investigation is ongoing and pressure is mounting to find answers. Meanwhile, tributes have been pouring in. Friends describe Kirk as deeply devoted to his Christian faith, his family, and his mission. He leaves behind his wife, Erika Frantzve, a former Miss Arizona who often appeared with him at events, and their 2 young children. Images of his grieving family have sparked waves of sympathy, even from those who disagreed with his politics. Turning Point USA, the organization he founded, has pledged to continue his mission. In their statement, they called him a warrior for freedom and promised that his death would not silence the movement he built. Plans are underway for a memorial service, and his funeral is expected to draw some of the biggest names in American politics. Beyond the personal loss, Kirk's assassination has reignited a national conversation about political violence. America has seen a troubling rise in threats and attacks against public figures in recent years. Kirk's death feels like a culmination of that trend, a devastating symbol of how toxic and dangerous the climate has become. The story of Charlie Kirk is one of meteoric rise and tragic fall. From a teenager with a vision to a national figure influencing presidents, to a man cut down in the prime of his life, his journey reflects both the power of conviction and the perils of standing at the front lines of America's political battles. And now, his absence leaves a void. For conservatives, it is the loss of a leader who inspired the next generation. For his family, it is the unimaginable loss of a husband and father. For the nation, it is a grim reminder that words, ideas, and divisions are not just abstract, they can have deadly consequences. As investigators hunt for the shooter and the nation grapples with what this means, one thing is certain: Charlie Kirk's name will not fade from memory. His life, his work, his controversies, and now his tragic death will be debated for years to come. And whether you agreed with him or opposed him, his assassination marks a turning point in America's culture wars. This story is far from over, and in the days ahead, the questions will only grow louder. Who pulled the trigger? Why was Charlie Kirk targeted? And how will the nation respond to the reality that political violence has claimed yet another life? Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more updates, because this story is still unfolding, and the impact will be felt for years to come.